Recall with me for a moment the time where a story changed something in you. It went beyond simple entertainment and spoke directly to you, reshaping your perspective on something. These types of stories are hard to find. Many of them speak into various subjects, providing wisdom, insight, and introspection. And most of them unapologetically show you human nature and existence. The struggle of it. Dealing with pain, hope, trauma, interpersonal relationships, dreams, or even just the struggle to survive another day. Often in media, things are pretty clear-cut. Heroes are born with hearts of gold, and villains are evil for the sake of it. Characters are simplistic and predictable, and plot lines follow a rhythm like a dance. The morals found in these are usually universal, and don't cause much self-reflection. They are shallow. Through the power of friendship, the day is won, characters change, and the unyielding will of the protagonist carries them throughout all trials they face. Not to say these types of stories can't be good or even great, but at least for me, they usually never leave the box of enjoyable entertainment, hardly ever instilling a lasting impact that changes something in me, or demands a deep self-reflection on what the material presents. Many writers try, but few succeed in capturing the essence of existential characters and stories. So, what's an existential story? In a nutshell, these stories are a realistic portrayal of the human condition and existence, even if the setting takes place in a world which looks nothing like ours. Existentialism shows us that we are who we are based on our choices, so a good existentialist story shows us characters' choices, gives us logical reasoning behind those choices through the character's perspective, and the consequence of that choice. These stories usually explore the meaning of life, questioning one's existence and purpose. And to properly portray these themes, characters of such stories are forced to wrestle with them. Forced to face devastating realities, difficult questions, moral dilemmas, and so much more. These stories do not shy away from the hard subjects. Rather, it faces them head on. And because it does, when these stories show us something beautiful, it is so much more so, because we have seen the ugly as well. Existential stories shake us to our core, painting a world and characters that feel so real. At times, it's breathtakingly beautiful, and others, it's sickening and devastating. We witness friendship forged in the fires of trial and tribulation, realistic character development of people who were once a shadow of themselves made whole again, and joy brought to a place where there once was sadness. These moments stir our hearts, calling out to us, sometimes bringing us to tears. But we also witness suffering, those taken advantage of in every way possible, the effects of raging war, addiction, loss, and the forgotten. In these stories, suffering does not differentiate. All are affected by its touch. There is no guarantee of a hero coming to save the day or an end-all solution that rights everything in the world. Sometimes things are just broken, and all you can do is try your best to keep moving forward. The author takes us on a journey of characters struggling for hope and peace, and their realistic rejection and suffering throughout the process. A few of the stories that come to mind for me the most when contemplating existential stories are Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Berserk, A Silent Voice, Violet Evergarden, Vinland Saga, Attack on Titan, Your Lie in April, and many more. Each of these stories have vastly different settings, genre, message, characters, plot, and even target audience. Yet among all these differences, they're similar in their depiction of the humanity in its characters, and their striving with their own existence. Edward and Alphonse Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood committed the taboo of human transmutation, attempting to use alchemy to revive their mother from the dead after she passed to sickness. They failed, and it resulted in Edward losing his arm and leg and Alphonse his entire body, leaving his soul trapped in a suit of armor incapable of sleep or the sense of touch. Both of these characters are traumatized by their past, but it doesn't define them. It's just a piece of their story. They are more than just a singular event. They evolve and change with every interaction, their identities molding like clay as they progress on their journey, fighting to regain what they lost. In the process, they struggle in a world filled with war, differing religions, interpretations, and violations of morality and truth. But throughout it all, they find their own path. Existential stories don't allow for focal characters to be one-note or shallow. It acknowledges them as complex human beings who think, act, grow, and change. Writers with this experience may have turned Ed and Al or similar characters into one-note villains, tragic villains, or perhaps tragic heroes, taking every chance possible to look back on a singular event to explain their actions without ever giving them any depth beyond it. There would be no contemplation, growth, or change, until perhaps the very end when someone says something that was obvious from the beginning or downright stupid. Something like, "It's not too late to change. Your past doesn't define you. Starting today, you can be a hero." And in a triumphant final moment, the villain is redeemed before being killed off. Or on the very rare occasion, survives and actually changes. But without any seeds of contemplation, struggle, or regret, how's the audience supposed to accept that? People don't act like that. Humans aren't one note. Obito from Naruto is a perfect example of this. A foil to Naruto, they are similar in almost every way, but Obito has chosen the path of darkness and hatred, unlike Naruto. This foil utterly fails because of how outlandish and unrealistic Obito is as a character. At 13, Obito witnessed his childhood crush sacrifice herself for the village, saving thousands of lives from a nefarious plan plotted by their enemies. In response to this, Obito declared the world to be hell, aligned himself with the village's greatest enemy, aided in the slaughter of his clan, attempted to destroy the village, murder his best friend, Master's wife, Master's newly born child, start an extremist organization, a world war, and tried to entrap all of humanity in an illusion world. How does this align at all? The show goes out of its way to establish Obito as a good kid that cares deeply for the people around him. Yet, this death caused him to practically nuke the world. Mourning and making questionable decisions is realistic, but for what he does, this motivation is so shallow and far-fetched. Not to mention, it's been over 20 years since his crush died, and despite the countless lives he's taken, he's given a redemption arc where everyone treats him like a hero before he passes away. Obito is not a character. He's a plot device with a role to fill. Sometimes, life does turn out in a way where one moment completely changes the course of your life, acting as the core of your motivation, regret, fear, focus, trauma, or something else. But it's never just that moment. It's your reaction to it, and the steps you take afterward. For example, a child who watches a firefighter save a life and is inspired may seek to become a firefighter themselves. Studying hard, staying in shape, and taking exams to enter the academy, these are all steps taken by the child as a response to that first action. But each step requires a decision, even if the initial motivation plays a role in that decision. Existential stories take the time to explore this. The murder of Thorifin's father in Vinland Saga radically changed him. He was only 6 when he saw his father, who he believed to be invincible, killed, despite winning an honorable duel. Refusing to return home, he snuck aboard the vessel of the man who killed his father to take his revenge through his own honorable duel. To survive and be quote-unquote worthy for the duel, he served as a child soldier for the very man he sought revenge on, only to lose every duel with him for years. Thorifin is trapped in a cycle of violence and hatred, but the writer of Vinland Saga shows us every one of his decisions that keep him trapped in that cycle. It wasn't just him losing his father. That was a spark. But what kept the smoldering fire burning was the first time he killed. The first time he witnessed someone care and protect him die due to his actions, attempting to differentiate himself from the men he fought alongside, ignoring the pleas of someone trying to rescue him from this cycle, getting used to the bloodshed, the murder. All of these were warnings and pathways. At every point he had to contemplate his choices, and each time he chose revenge, no matter how reluctant. We witness him try to push these things aside, but it only leads to a deterioration in his mindset, the cracks beginning to show, until he eventually breaks. It's a realistic progression, a slow bending of one's will, easing them into the cycle Thorifin found himself in, unlike what we saw with Obito. While his motivation is still revenge for his father, encased in that now is years of trauma, regret, violence, confusion, and a broken person. It was one moment that served as the catalyst for change in Thorifin, but many decisions by Thorifin himself that turned him into the broken person we see throughout Season 1 and in the beginning of Season 2. And his development afterward is much like his downfall, slow and painful, paved with countless decisions. This time he's full of self-reflection, has mentors that nudge him in the right direction, and a desire to be better and to change. It requires sacrifice and discipline. It's a realistic journey that we can empathize with because change is hard, and it takes time. We cheer for his accomplishments and mourn when he experiences loss because we understand his journey, because the writer has established not through telling us, but showing us that he is a complicated human being filled with thoughts, aspirations, and emotions. That is what existential stories bring: connection. The portrayal of human characters speak to us on a deeper level. Their struggles and achievements are palpable. The worlds feel lived in, and the questions asked and morals covered are difficult, just like they are in real life. We don't have all the answers, and neither do the characters. Life is portrayed as complicated and messy like it truly is. Existential stories aren't filled with half-baked characters, concepts, or morals. Everything is deliberate. You are not a victim to fate. One of the prevailing themes in Berserk, a series where fate constantly attempts to destroy, cast down, and break its characters. The world of Berserk is twisted, dark, and disgusting. Demons roam the lands unchecked. Men use power to exploit others, giving into their darkest desires. And some sort of god or savior is nowhere to be found. Yet, this is the message. The darkest series I've ever read, and it has some of the most beauty I've ever seen in storytelling. The characters constantly struggle against fate that tries to control them. They wrestle with past trauma and loss, and keep fighting to reach some semblance of peace. I would have never expected some of the most flawed, interesting, and human characters I've ever seen come out of a series like Berserk. I mean, look at this guy. I didn't exactly expect him to be a multifaceted, complex character with conflicting dreams, motivations, and goals that struggles to survive and find meaning in this life and in the lives of others around him. The characters in this series are inspiring, and even in a world with struggles far greater than I should ever face, I found myself relating to them, wanting to fight, to not be a victim of fate. Existential stories bring more to the table than just mindless entertainment. They cause self-reflection, spark joy, and even at times bring crippling sadness or regret. These stories call the audience to dig deep and it pries open their soul. It becomes something more than just a simple story, almost like it becomes a part of you. This is why we love and mourn existential stories, because in a way they're a reflection of our own humanity, struggles, and existence. Thank you for watching my first video to the end. My current plan is to upload monthly, but the next video will be releasing about a week from now, so consider sticking around. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again, and I'll catch you next time.